So Scott Walker, and this is fascinating because the Koch brothers ostensibly, right, they're pro-immigration. But let's be honest. At the end of the day, now, and I have said for some time that when the Koch brothers said they were going to dump $900 million into this race, a lot of it was going to end up in Scott Walker's pockets. Scott Walker has been carrying their water for quite some time. He is, and here's the thing. I mean, you're the Koch brothers, right? Will you support Jeb Bush if he becomes the nominee? Probably in some way, but you'll probably spread your money out because you don't know that he's going to win. You want to own a guy. You want to own a guy. Jeb Bush is not going to be owned by the Koch brothers. Jeb Bush is going to have a lot of other owners. Scott Walker, he's going to be owned by the Koch brothers. You have to understand the sort of the agenda of these pros. And last night when I was on Hayes, I was saying that Chris Christie, when he talked about Social Security, was playing to one guy, Pete Peterson. And Jeff Smith, not a friend of show Jeff Smith, but Jeff Smith, state senator from Missouri, who I think went to prison because of campaign finance issues, who follows this stuff. I said, well, what about Ken Langone? Chris Christie already has his billionaire, Ken Langone. I don't think Ken Langone is going to support Chris Christie because Ken Langone wants some results. He he pays Cuomo to get charter schools in and whatnot. Chris Christie is valuable for one reason only, and that is to carry a message. And Pete Peterson says, you're going to carry the Social Security message, and you're going to lose, and I don't care because I spend tens of millions of dollars a year anyways trying to push this message. So instead, I'll pay you to do it. I'm just looking at an advertising budget I have. And you're going to be the advertising thing. And the Koch brothers, they're going to have their advertising guy who actually may win, at least the nomination. So he's going to be able to talk about this stuff for the next 6 months. So the Koch brothers, they don't care about the immigration. That's just low on their list of stuff. Because Scott Walker did not make this decision to not only slam undocumented immigrants, but to criticize the notion of immigration, period. In terms of legal immigration, he said to Glenn Beck, who's had it with the Republican Party. I don't know if you remember that, but that was 2 weeks ago. In terms of legal immigration, how we need to approach that going forward is saying the next president and the next Congress need to make decisions about legal immigration system that's based on, first and foremost, on protecting American workers and American wages. Because the more I've talked to folks, I've talked to Senator Sessions and other out there, but it's fundamentally lost issue by many in the elected positions today, is what is this doing for American workers looking for jobs? What is this doing to wages? And we have to be at the forefront of our discussion going forward. Well, first of all, I think you'll find that it's doing very little in terms of wages and in terms of jobs. Immigration, even in general, particularly relative to something like unionization, which has a proven track record of raising wages in an industry, never mind just for the people who have been unionized, but in that industry by upwards around 10 to 12%. So if you really care about American workers and American wages, your whole career is not built upon destroying unions. This is just about nativism. This is just about nativism. He's going Pat Buchanan. Because he's got to reach out. He's got to make up for the fact that he's being supported by the Koch brothers. And he's got to distance himself from there. And he basically, I'm sure, got the green light. Go ahead.
He's also somewhat like Sarah Palin. I think, the more I see him, I mean, he's obviously a lot more effective than her and not just sort of complete disaster that she is, but he's a real believer.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt.
So I don't think there's not even the sense of, well, I'll use this as an opening to cynically exploit. He's all in this total I mean, maybe so. But I think he's in a fantasy land with regard to all of this stuff.
I think there's part of that.
Whether it's market fundamentalism,
I think there's part of
whether it's nativism, I think it's very genuine. It's not like, I'm going to go play this audience of rubes right now.
I know. I think there's something to that.
He's a representative of the rubes himself.
All right. So with that said, that's Scott Walker on his, as Breitbart.com calls it, his pro-American worker stance on immigration.